Hey guys, LevelCap and Luetin here with an episode of On the Level. Today we're going to be talking about some of the new premium bonus content, End Game, Capture the Flag, Air Superiority, and the fact that perhaps there might not be any more DLC after End Game before the next Battlefield title. So, Luetin, what do you think about these three sexy new dog tags?
They are really smart, I have to say. I did see them before I saw them in game, and then I saw some people wearing them in game. But it was funny because I was in a couple of rounds, and there were some people who had no idea even what they were. They were like, "Oh my god, how do I get these? They're so amazing!" And there was one guy who even said to me on the team chat, and he was like, "Oh, I was about to report this guy because I thought he'd somehow abused." I was like, "What? How would he possibly do that?"
Report him for wearing one of these cool. His dog tag's too cool. Report him.
That's what he said. He said he didn't know how he could have gotten it, so he thought it must have been a hack or something. I was like, shut up, Ian. But
that's pretty funny.
It was a random thing to say. But yeah, you know, they look really smart, so it's nice to reward people and give people little tokens, isn't it? It's all part of the aesthetic side of things, you know. It's all the kind of visual, these little pieces, and some people appeal to these things more than others, and it's the same kind of thing with weapon camos and all this kind of stuff. I feel like it's something that could have been done more, because whilst there's some people that are not interested in that whatsoever, there are people who really, really love all the customization, and it's something that I see all the time when I ask people what would they like to see for the future. One thing that people always say is more customization of how you look. People love that stuff, and they like to be able to customize their character more. I mean, that's one thing, that the character models all look fairly similar, and one thing, remember, people might have said with Aftermath, people loved the way the characters looked in Aftermath, and they said, "Oh great, can we take these character models back into the other game?" No, you can't do that. And I think people really, really wanted that. And so releasing these little bits and pieces now and then, it sparks interest for the people that like that kind of stuff. Me personally, I'm not that fussed. I wear a blank dog tag with my Bad Company dog tag, and that's the two for me. Yeah.
They do look cool, but it's pretty skimpy for bonus content.
Yeah.
3 dog tags
Yeah.
that have some gold on them. I'd like to see more, maybe some more weapon camo, some different skins for soldiers, anything. I don't know. There's a lot they could do with Battlefield that they're just sort of like, oh, here's some new dog tags, which, I don't know, I never really got on the whole dog tag bandwagon. I haven't been that excited about them. I do like the weapon camos, but at least it's something, right? The gold one with the little Battlefield soldier on it looks pretty cool.
They're quite minimal, they're quite nice. They have a large flatted out area of color which looks quite striking when you see it, so it is quite cool. But I agree, I think like at this stage in the game, I mean, honestly, could they not have, I mean, how long does it take a designer to come up with those things? I swear you could knock them out pretty quickly. I don't understand why they're, I mean, honestly,
it'd take you an afternoon to probably do all 3 of these.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, what is it? It's basically just a flat 2D image imprinted onto something. So honestly, I mean, I'm a designer myself,
and it's
I'm an
digital.
illustrator.
You're not like taking it to the mill and it's not getting cut out and turned into a real dog tag. It's gonna take you the afternoon to implement that on an actual dog tag in game.
Exactly. I think really at this stage that what they should be doing more is kind of, they should have released a pack, 20 new dog tags. There you go, guys. Really mix it up, customize your stuff. And again, weapon skins. They already have the weapon model. All right, so it's really not hard to make a weapon skin. People keep saying like, oh, but there's lots of different guns, it would take them a long time to do. No, it wouldn't. They have the weapon model. It's literally just a case of colouring in the pattern and then slapping the skin on it. Simple as that. It would take no time at all. So again, that's another thing that I kind of really, for the people that enjoy it, I think they really could have done a lot more there. So I think that in the future, I think it's something they should address. And it's not a game changer, but it's nice. It's a nice extra thing, and people like extras in games.
So let's move on to Endgame, Capture the Flag, and Air Superiority. The trailers have certainly made them look cool. DICE has no problem with making really good-looking trailers to really get people motivated and excited. We did have a few conversations about this before the trailer, and I don't think either of us were too excited about CTF.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little more excited now that I've seen the trailer. The lack of heavy armor and attack helicopters and jets made me a little more interested. It's kind of like, hey, what happens if we play Battlefield without these certain types of vehicles in a CTF environment? Could actually be fun. The map looked kind of cool. Air superiority, of course, looks cool from the trailer. I think it's going to be one giant mess, but what do you think?
I think for Capture the Flag, now Capture the Flag is I always say is a really difficult one, because it's unusual to have a really balanced game of Capture the Flag in my experience, unless you have really well balanced teams, which comes and goes. With this game mode, I'm going to be interested in it mainly because they demonstrated it in what looked like a very open environment, which to me seemed like, okay, you're going to have these fast-moving vehicles in very open areas, and you're going to basically have to shoot people off of those vehicles. Seems to me like the scout helicopter is going to have an extremely strong role to play in sort of controlling those areas. You're going to have very fast, skilled pilots. So I think, you know, there's going to be a role for people on the ground to be dealing with those helicopters, making sure that they're kept out of the way so that you can score the flags properly. Also, what kind of distances are involved? They've said that the maps are big enough to allow these kind of fast chases. Well, it's going to have to be far enough that once the bike or the guys with the flag leave the base, well, you're going to need to have enough of a time interval that you can actually have some kind of interaction before they reach the other base.
Yeah, the trailer, I think, is pretty misleading in terms of what it'll actually play out like. Think about this. Guy comes into a base, big firefight, guy comes out of the base on a dirt bike with the flag.
Yeah.
He's got a 10-second head start.
Yeah,
15-second head start. Who's going to catch up to him? You got the dirt bike. It's clearly faster than the Jeeps, so Jeep sure as hell isn't. The helicopter isn't in the air at that point. You're never going to catch up to him. Because scout helis aren't that fast.
No,
you know?
not really,
they can barely pull it. If you get on more dirt bikes, you're going to have to just chase him.
Yeah.
But he's got that head start, so it almost seems like I hope there's points in the middle of the map that maybe you can spawn it and try and intercept him.
Yeah,
you know, or something like that, to try and create a chase there. Otherwise, it's just going to be like, well, guy on a dirt bike got the flag. There he goes.
Exactly. Or we could end up with roadside campers where you have little guys sitting in a bush holding their C4 trigger, and then you're just getting back to the base. You think you're safe, and then and you're down. I definitely see that. I've even seen that recently with people doing stuff like that. But I don't know. We really have to see what the map is like. I mean, they showed us a small clip of a small section of a road, and they put everyone into it all at the same time, which looks amazingly exciting. In reality, well, it's probably going to be much like other trailers we've seen for other things. I mean, you know, the Armored Kill trailer made things look extremely exciting with the helicopters chasing, you know, trucks down the mountainside. We all remember this. The guy in the back is shooting the helicopter. When did that ever happen? When's that going to happen? It's not. You know, they set up these situations to make it look extremely exciting, and I'm not trying to be down on it because maybe it's going to be really cool. I mean, Aftermath has been excellent, so it's not to say that it can't be good, but I'm just trying to picture it in my mind. And like you say, once a guy's on his bike and he's away, well, how is that going to work? Maybe for a PC game, a 3264 player, you're going to have enough people distributed around the map that it's going to work. We're back to the whole situation. Console, you got 12
maybe the weight of the flag will slow down his dirt bike so much that he can't outrun. So he's going to need teammates to protect him. You know, if they'd made it instead of a flag like some other sort of object that you had to carry and say a Jeep, you know, which isn't the fastest vehicle in the game, that'd be kind of neat. They maybe restricted it to, say, a slower moving vehicle. Then the dirt bikes could attack the Jeep, and you'd have these sort of Mad Max Road Warrior like engagements going on, and that would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely would be. I mean, anything like that where you have to have some kind of actual team element to controlling the situation is much more exciting than one guy on a dirt bike just caning it across the field, and you know, you just see him in the distance and you think, oh, he's gone. Well, we'll make sure that we can defend the cap next time. However,
so air superiority then. What are you thinking? I mean, it's from the trailer we see that there's 3 blimps and 3 capture points, so it seems like Conquest.
Yeah.
But in the air, and you have to fly near the blimp to capture them from what I'm guessing. I mean, that hasn't been confirmed, but it seems pretty obvious that that's how the game is going to work.
I mean, Dasco pointed out
do you think this is going to be an interesting game mode, or just a way to get some of the Ace Jet pilots out of our Conquest servers?
We'll have to see. I mean, Dasco pointed out an interesting thing, that these blimps are actually like real-life radar things. That's what they are. They're kind of tethered balloons, and then they have radar control. Whether or not they're going to have any sort of ability like that, we don't know. I mean, perhaps if you control one of these things, it may act as a radar. Don't know. I mean, that's what they do in real life. So that's what they do in real life. So who knows? It could be a possibility. I think in reality, I think it's much more likely that they will just be flag capture points, and they've just used a real-life element there to kind of give it some kind of credibility and purpose. It's kind of a nice idea, the idea of these tethered things, and you have to control them. But it's very much 1943, a similar thing where you had a position, you have to control it. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be Conquest, but in the air. One thing that's going to be interesting is how when you have that many aircraft in the air, how the lock-on ability is going to work. No longer are people going to be able to fly circling around and around and around. So these guys, these ace jet pilots who have got so skillful at doing the turns, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it when they have 4 or 5 other guys all locking them at the same time. And the other thing is, you know, if one pilot clearly becomes dominant, then it's going to be obvious that the people are going to start heading for that guy. And, you know, if you have 2-3 people locking it at the same time, you're going to have a hard time keeping that off. When you're up in the air, you're not going to have many routes to escape. You know, you're not going to have many mountains to fly off behind or anything like that. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to level the playing field a little bit. But,
I think it's going to be very hard to come up with legitimate strategies, and it's going to be a lot of engaging and running. I mean, I've seen the exact same mechanics exist in PlanetSide, and for a one-on-one aerial battle, it's fine. You can use your skill all you want. You can dominate one guy. Yeah. As soon as a few other guys meet the engagement, all of a sudden you're circling around with one guy. A few other guys are just sort of sitting further back, locking on, and that's it. Like, all your dogfighting skill just went out the window. So it's going to turn into a lot of engaging and running away, I think. And it's going to be tricky. They added in those windmills to try and create some sort of environment that you can dodge around maybe and other stuff. But honestly, why not just fly over them? I mean, you're in a jet, right? What's the height ceiling? So we'll have to see. It could be incredibly boring. It could be incredibly fun. I don't know if the top-end jet pilots are actually going to like it, because I think a lot of their one-on-one dogfighting skills, which they can capitalize in any sort of conquest game because of the lack of numbers, is going to kind of become less important here. Because I counted at least 7 friendly jets in one of the screen grabs there. So we know there's going to be potentially a total of 14, probably more, up in the air at one time.
I mean, these little pro pilots who like to be really, you know, controlling everything. If they're in a rush game, if they're in a conquest game, they never have more than, you know, at the most 2 or 3 enemy targets to really worry about. And often, if they're in a game of conquest, for example, they're going to have friendly helicopters and other jets backing them up as well. Which really, I mean, even if the other pilots are not very good, they're bait, which means that they can kind of stay out the way and then pick off the other people, which means they can stay in sort of domination, contention all the way. But in this game mode, it's just not going to be possible. There's no way they're going to be able to do this. They're not going to
be a lot of friendly collisions too.
That will be funny.
I mean, think about how much ramming you've collided with a friendly with just 2 jets, you know, on your team. There's you and one other guy, and you manage to crash into each other while on somebody else's tail. Now multiply that by like 6 or something, and there's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be pretty funny, I think.
It's gonna be interesting. And one thing, though, I think is that, you know, we have talked a lot in the past about the sort of dynamics of this kind of one-on-one fighting and how one pilot can really dominate. Whereas in this game mode, it really, you know, I think it's going to balance it out. Whether some people like or dislike it, I think one thing that is going to be the case is it's going to be really intense, and you're going to have a very difficult time to really survive in a kind of lengthy period of time, because provided those people are reasonable pilots, there's going to be a lot of people going in there. The other thing that's going to be interesting is that you only rarely end up with like maybe 1-2 really good pilots on a map at one time, because, you know, there aren't that many aircraft jets for them to actually fly. But on this game mode, what ended up if you had like a team of 5 really amazing pilots versus 5 other really amazing pilots, you could have a really intense sort of battle going on there.
That'd be something that I'd want to watch too.
It'd be good if it could be arranged.
I don't consider myself to be a top-end pilot, but I'd certainly want to watch 2 teams of really good pilots sort of go at it, hear the call-outs, you know, and what they're doing. That could be very cool. Do you want to move on to what we think is going to happen if Endgame actually is the last DLC, which apparently has been confirmed?
It's kind of nice, I have to say, that they brought superiority in for this last thing, as it were, because people have been asking for it, so it is actually good that they bothered to put that in there. But I'm quite surprised, if I'm honest. I thought that there would be at least another DLC, or at the most, I thought there could be a whole other package content like there was for Bad Company 2, where they actually did a completely individual sort of package to come in and tack on at the end to give it some life. And, you know, Bad Company 2 did that. It really helped the game at the end, because people were like, oh, Vietnam, it's great. You know, they really had some good times, and it did help spur it on. If there's nothing like that, I think personally it's a bit of a mistake, because it's a long time from Endgame to Battlefield 4. It's a long time.
2014, they haven't even said what month. So, I mean...
Could be like March,
you know? At least
March,
9
April,
months.
I don't know.
Probably more. And that's a lot of time for people's interest to wane us to pick up other titles. Crisis 3 looks awesome.
Yeah.
Some people are going to try out other shooters out there. PlanetSide, I'm sure, will get a bump.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, if you're a franchise, if you have a title like this, you kind of want to keep people's interest in the game up until your next title. I mean, it's smart business strategy, and it's frankly something that the users want too. You know, I would love to see another DLC after this.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like has been mentioned, whilst people dislike the kind of rolling yearly thing of other titles, there is a benefit in that, which is that you don't have to market so much, because every year it's kind of, just as a game is kind of reaching its kind of period of enjoyment, you know, it's kind of getting towards the end, and then there's a new game, and rather than having to market so hard, people that are already playing it are like, oh, the new one's coming, so they already have a kind of interest to kind of read about it. Whereas if there's a long delay period, people kind of switch off and start doing other things, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, Battlefield's coming back. Oh yeah. Oh well, I've got to find out. And you know, they're going to have to basically work harder to rein back the people that were playing before. Whereas if they keep it on rolling more, then they're going to lose less of their audience, and it's going to be easier for them to sort of target the next game coming out. So for that reason alone, I'm quite surprised that, I mean, honestly, to just release a couple more DLCs, I thought that would pay for itself, really.
How much do you think Medal of Honor was supposed to be filling this void here? Like, you think that was EA and DICE's plan, sort of like, we're going to be getting some money here, and they sort of cross-promote each other because they're in Battle Log? Remember that huge cross-promotion? Get Medal of Honor and you'll get into the BF4 beta. Like, they've been crazy cross-promoting between the games, as if, like, if you like one, you should like the other. It almost seems like that was their plan, to try and like fill the void with Medal of Honor until BF4.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people talking about that, and there's a lot of people saying, oh, I'm getting Medal of Honor just because I want to play the Battlefield 4 beta, and they were like, why wouldn't you do this? I'm like, I don't know, because I don't want Medal of Honor. You know? So as much as the Battlefield 4 beta will be very exciting, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to find some way of getting into it other than buying that game, which was why I didn't bother to get it. So I don't know. I mean, it's interesting as well to think about the fact that, for example, a game like PlanetSide 2, it's much more a slightly sort of MMO-ish game in the sense that it kind of rolls on. They can easily add new stuff to it at any time. It'll just keep going, keep going, keep going. And there are other titles like this that have gone on for, you know, years in that way. And they don't require the same kind of large releases that you see with these standalone games like Battlefield and Call of Duty and other titles that are similar. So in that sense, again, it just seems to me that it's in their interest when other large titles like PlanetSide are taking market shares away from them. It seems in their interest to keep attention and keep it going on there. Now, I've heard that in April they're going to be showing previews of Battlefield 4, so there's going to be some interest there. They're going to be actually sort of showing people what's coming up. Now, perhaps in the time between April going forward through the rest of the year, they're going to show more of the game as it goes along to kind of keep people's interest. The other thing that we haven't considered is how long the beta is going to be, you know? I mean, when is that going to come out? Is it going to come out end of the summer?
There could be a very long closed beta. There could be an extremely long open beta. It would be nice to actually have a real beta, you know, this time around.
Not just one map, but have a few maps, different modes, you know.
Yeah, like a 3-month open beta could be awesome. I mean, a lot of people aren't going to play it, but if they allowed people to post videos on it, talk about it,
get involved.
It's a great hype train, you know. Let the internet promote your game and let us play it and fix it at the same time. There's a lot of stuff that they could do. I think that perhaps they didn't want this kind of break between DICE titles, at least with Medal of Honor. It would be great to see a new DLC. Like, imagine how awesome it would be with a surprise DLC. Surprise, you're getting Vietnam or a World War II mod or something like that. You know, people would go crazy for it. I think it's a mistake to leave the game sort of dormant for this period of time, but I'm sure Battlefield 4 is going to have some crazy media hype train going when it finally comes out, so they'll probably regain most of the audience regardless.
Yeah, the last thing I want to say is that I think the best thing that they could do is either, like we say, have a DLC saved up, because I think, like you say, it would be a huge deal. People would love them for it. If they don't have that, then I think they're going to need to have an extended beta for Battlefield 4, release it end of the summer, start sort of September time, run it through to the end of the year, let people use it for then come out with the game in, you know, the early period of 2014, the first quarter there. If they don't do that, if they don't have an extended beta, if they don't have something that people can really get to grips with at the kind of mid to end of this year, I think it's going to be a mistake for them, and we'll just have to see what happens there. But otherwise, I think it's going to be it's going to be a too significant period of time to have nothing there. But I'm excited for End Game, and we'll see what happens with everything else. But there's been some questionable choices along the way. I think Battlefield 3 for the most part has been a really fantastic title. I think they've done a lot of things right. They've made some mistakes. I hope that they don't continue to make mistakes as we go through the rest of this year, and I'm gonna stay positive.
Yeah, well put, well put. So I think we're gonna wrap up the show. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Perhaps some speculation on DICE's strategy. What's gonna happen between March and 2014, whenever BF4 comes out. Thanks for watching. As always, this is luetin and LevelCap signing off.